bit of that. So if I'm out golfing, if I'm driving, I'm just constantly looking for bits of inspiration, and they can come in all shapes and forms.
I think that's so cool.
All right, guys. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Wediges podcast. We're super excited today to chat with somebody that's had quite the experience in the golf space and even outside, that's held maybe a couple different titles. And so I'm just going to introduce you as Tony to the listeners, and then we will go through the extensive history and the cool history that you've had. And so they'll get the titles and the stuff from there. So welcome to the podcast, Tony. Coming from Wisconsin, right?
That is correct. Thank you, guys.
100%. You are the first guest we've had from Wisconsin. I can confidently say.
That checks out. Yeah, that checks out.
And the first question that I have for you is, just right off the bat, what is golf like out in Wisconsin? I assume it's pretty seasonal.
Well, yeah, it's very seasonal, but we actually are very blessed with amazing golf. I didn't realize it until I moved to Texas for a few years, not long ago. And man, I took it for granted when I was here. So when I moved back, it was just, the golf here is incredible. I mean, you got Erin Hills, Straits, Black Wolf Run, Sand Valley Properties, Lawsonia. I mean, the list goes on and on. So you just got to fit in the golf in a very short amount of time. So
yeah. Well, we have
at least that's my excuse with my wife.
Yeah, we have the same thing here in Utah, right? Obviously very seasonal too. Both very cold in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Wisconsin's kind of slept on as far as like great golf amenities and courses, as well as Utah. Like a lot of people don't think, oh, great golf, go to Utah. But I think it's very much the same, that we have some awesome courses out here too. So we'll have to fly out to Wisconsin and play, and then you'll have to come to Utah and play.
Deal.
In the summertime for both places.
Yeah, middle of winter.
You guys need to come in the next couple of weeks, otherwise.
And then we're done.
Yeah.
Well, that's funny. I thought that would probably be the case, and we kind of suffer from the same thing here. So you're not alone.
The one benefit though is you do get fall rates, and so you can sometimes you can get on some of these nicer courses for a little bit cheaper if you can snag a tee time. But so that is the one blessing.
Yeah. There is a part in Utah, actually, very, very southern part of Utah, where it sometimes snows in the winter, but you can usually get seasonal rates as well when it's really, really hot in the summer, and then when it's really, really cold in the winter. So there is some of that here too. So,
well, where I wanted to go from here, I told myself I wasn't going to start this one with golf, and I immediately launched into golf, so that's on me. But how I wanted to start the show was, I mean, you're an artist, right? Huge passion there. I want to know where your relationship with art started. Like, when did that become a thing for you? How did that become a thing for you? And when did you know that you wanted to make that your everyday?
Great question. So my mother actually owns a print shop. So she takes artist paintings and shoots them and makes prints for them. She's done that my whole life pretty much. And so I've always just been surrounded by it, going to her shop often and things like that, and just naturally gifted at drawing, I guess, at a young age. So I knew I was going to be within the arts. Wasn't sure what exactly it was going to be. And then once I got through high school, that's when sort of graphic design and computers, and I'm aging myself here. But the idea of graphic design sort of became like a real job. And I always loved tech. My dad's on the tech side of things. So it's like I had the tech world and then art sort of combined into one. So I knew graphic design was going to be like my thing pretty much in high school.
Yeah.
So I went to college. That's what I went to college for. I have a design degree. But it wasn't until recently, probably like 6 months ago, where I started calling myself an artist. I've always just referred to myself as a designer. That's just my background. And I made art not as often as I wanted, like actual paintings and things like that. It's always been digital art. But I've recently sort of embraced the idea of being an artist. And so like in my bio, I changed it to artist, and like just accepted this idea that art can be much bigger than, paintings and things like that. And even though I'm doing graphic work for t-shirts or hats or whatever it may be, that's still considered art. So it wasn't until recently that I sort of embraced this role as being an artist.
I love that. And I want to know too, like what, as you were growing up, what were some of those like early influences that you had that made it might have, inspired some of your art or influenced the way that you went about it?
I think it was just a kid drawing things that he was seeing and was interested in. So, whether it's cars, I would draw, Dodge Vipers and things like that back in the day. I actually have some paintings of golf courses, some like landscape stuff that I did in like middle school.
Oh
uh,
wow.
yeah. So it's just, a lot of sports figures, the Packers, obviously, Tiger Woods, drawing a lot of portraits and things like that. It was just, yeah, it was just me kind of sketching things that I was into. Yeah. And I just progressed, and I'm still doing that to this day, sketching, designing things that I'm seeing that are around, like I've embraced Wisconsin in a lot of my designs with Radry, the geese, sort of this idea of the woods, the North Woods and things like that. You'll see a lot more in my design work moving forward. Yeah, it's just my surroundings has just been my main inspiration.
I think that's cool. I didn't know that the kind of hometown inspiration was in there and some of the stuff. So I'll have to go back and look and see if I can find some of that in there. I think it is interesting talking with creatives to see where that inspiration gets pulled from. And I love that hometown aspect. I think it's interesting. You said I honestly expected you to have some kind of artist or some kind of medium or some kind of inspiration from a person that you're like, I really liked this style, and so I've kind of incorporated that, or I really like this. I think it was really cool when you said like I just pulled it from what I was seeing, which to me communicates like there wasn't maybe any one specific thing in the arts that you saw that inspired you, but you were inspired by like lots of different pieces from lots of different places.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I've got a laundry list of like artists and brands that I look up to for sure. I mean, like Terry Urban's a great artist that I love his style. And like Kid Super is a great brand that I sort of try to mimic Radry after he does a great job. He's like high end fashion now, but it's just a bunch of kids living in New York. He's painting sort of his surroundings, in New York's a crazy place, and he probably had lots of inspiration there. But he does a great job of sort of blending art with fashion, and so he's a great brand that I look up to. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like I think it's called like intentional observation. It's you can be inspired by literally anything as long as your intent is that. It's like the idea of how many red cars did you see on the drive over today? You probably say like I didn't recognize any, but now that I mentioned it, you're going to notice every single red car that you see, when you leave. And so it's a little bit of that. So if I'm out golfing, if I'm driving, I'm just constantly looking for bits of inspiration, and they can come in all shapes and forms.
I think that's so cool, and I would assume it aids in the creative process. Not getting burnt out on any one single thing, but that you're always just taking in and then obviously creating from that. Um, but I want to talk about Radry. Obviously, that's why how we got connected. Um, but walk us through maybe. So you graduate with a design degree, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was the next step after school for you?
Working at a car wash. Um,
the natural
it,
progression.
um, yeah, it wasn't a great time to graduate, as you guys graduated into COVID, so I can't imagine that. But yeah, the economy was down and people weren't hiring designers, and so I ended up just taking a job where I worked at in high school, which is the local car wash, and which was great because I wanted to not do that. So it was a great motivator to eventually figure out that, okay, well, if my dream job's not going to come to me, I might have to sort of try and create it myself. And so that's when I started, okay, freelance design. What are some things I can do to get out of this situation? And that's when I had sort of like a light bulb moment of blending my passion for like apparel and design, and also baseball. That's kind of was my sport growing up. So I did some research and tried to see if a lifestyle baseball brand existed, because at the time I was wearing a lot of skate brands, and I've never touched a skateboard in my life. Like, it just didn't make sense to me that there's this whole skateboard culture that was just super cool and they're making the coolest stuff, but I didn't resonate with it, yet I still wore it. And so I was like, I kind of want to take that idea of like skate culture and bring it to baseball if I can. And so I started a brand, Classic, me and a buddy, out of our basement with a couple t-shirts, and then I grew into a pretty decent company.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I mean, obviously, you're seeing that trend in the last few years happening in golf as well, because we grew up as well wearing skate brands or skate clothing because it was the style and everything that was awesome. But this new landscape that has come into play of fashion and streetwear and golf, was that, I mean, did you take inspiration from existing brands to create Radry, or was it, hey, I did this with baseball and now I can do it in golf? Where did that inspiration come from?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I saw success in baseball, and so naturally hung up the cleats and started playing golf. And I knew that golf was going to be my next adventure, and I was designing for myself when I was at Routine, which is the baseball company. And so I knew that if I just did the exact same thing I was doing there within golf, I'm still designing for myself because I'm now like a huge golf nut. And, at the time, this was 2018. So there really wasn't a whole lot of golf brands, to be honest with you. There's Melbourne, obviously, Birds of Condor in Australia. But outside of that, there wasn't a whole lot. And so I saw an opportunity and just wanted to replicate what I was doing with baseball into golf. It was a seamless transition at the time.
Mm-hmm. And so you're building Routine, right? How did you go from Routine, and then obviously you've had some other cool experiences, to now Radry? So walk us through maybe the latter half of that experience.
Yeah, so Routine I started in 2011, and it was about 5 years in when I stopped playing baseball. And Routine Baseball, it was a brand for the baseball player and not necessarily the fan. And so once I stopped playing, I sort of started the flame for the passion for the brand sort of to fizzle out a little bit, and I was playing more golf. And it was just one of those situations where I wanted to venture off and start this brand on my own. And so just conversations with my business partner, he was able to buy my half out of Routine. So I was able to just leave pretty seamlessly and start Radry not long after.
Cool. And so what I want to ask is, so it sounds like you grew up playing baseball, mm-hmm. right? Maybe adopted golf a little bit later in life. Am I correct in that?
No, I mean, I played golf my whole life. My parents got me into it. They're both big golfers, and it was just a seasonality thing, like you guys can understand. Yeah. They're at the same time, so I had to just make a decision. It was like, do I devote my time to golf or baseball? And I knew if I was blessed enough to be able to play golf later in life, that'd be amazing. So I knew baseball was sort of, there's a small window of opportunity there. So I just kind of focused on it. But I played golf as much as I could.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So I guess my first question, I've got two questions for you, but my first question is, being a dual sport athlete in golf and baseball, did you find that one affected the other in negative ways ever, or were you able to keep a consistent swing in both sports without crossing over?
Baseball was fine. I was like the smaller middle infielder, so I like knew my role as I was like a little slap hitter. I would poke it out the right field a lot, and I was never like a power hitter. So my baseball swing was never affected, but my golf swing still is atrocious, and it will come out often. Big old slice. It's one of those things where you get to the top of the swing and you see ball, hit ball like that. In baseball, you have to react so quick. So you see the ball and you just get really excited. And so I tend to come over the top a little bit. But having not played baseball now for a long time, my swing, it's trending in the right direction, but the baseball days definitely poke its head in there every now and then.
Well, yeah, no, I've quite a few of my friends that have gotten into golf in the last couple of years have come from the baseball side, and I'm always envious that they can usually hit it a mile, Like y'all know how to turn those hips and get the power into it, but they do often find fairways not that we're playing, but to the right. You know?
Yep, that's
And
fine.
so there's some give and take with that, but that's funny. The second question that I had with both golf and baseball is obviously on the design side and on the professional side, baseball was the first kind of vehicle for you to find some success in that space. We talked a little bit about Radry being the maybe golf iteration or your personal golf iteration of what you figured out in routine. I guess what I want to know is, did you go immediately from routine to Radry, or how did your experience in the professional golf space start, and what were you able to find out there to build what you've built today?
Yeah, it was almost immediate. My exit from routine was planned out because I knew I was going to get into golf, so it wasn't like I left there and was like, oh, what am I going to do now? It was well planned out, so I was able to start Radry as soon as I left. But simultaneously, we had our first child. My wife was 6 months pregnant when I left, so it was also a good time for me because I knew I could start Radry at home and build it slowly just by myself while also like being home with this new daughter, first time dad. So I was like cherishing like that, that time with her. So I was able to kind of do both and be kind of not a full-time stay-at-home dad, but like, yeah, kind of do both at the same time. And it's one of the best decisions I've made.
That's awesome. Congrats, by the way. That's a really cool transition.
Yeah, thank you.
And yeah, so we had a conversation briefly before we actually hopped on the podcast about the meaning and everything behind Radry, both in the name but also kind of the ethos of the brand. I want to have that conversation again because I thought it was it's different than I feel like what a lot of these other brands are currently doing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, walk us through what is Radry, what does it mean, what's the word, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so when I was at Routine, I came up with that name just on a whim, and we created the website, and we're rolling. And a couple years in, we ran into trademarking issues and had a fight with some very large companies, Lululemon and Rockstar Games, and it was just a not fun experience. And so when it came to Radry, I put my business hat on and was like, I'm just gonna come up with a name that is sort of made up with a good backstory, of course, but just to help with the trademarking process. Social media is huge now, so it's harder to get certain handles and things like that. So Radry ended up being a combination of two old Scottish slang terms. One is Raj, Radge, and one is Barry, Bary. So it's just like a kind of a combination of the two. And Raj means like someone's going crazy, and Barry is like the opposite of that. It's like happy moments. And so the mouth of the logo is sort of this wave smiley, I guess, which sort of represents the ebbs and flows and the emotions that you kind of go through with golf. So it's like you can choose to be angry, or you can choose to enjoy your round regardless of outcome. And so the face, I kind of wanted, it's got a circle and a square to also represent sort of the rage side, which is bogeys, and then the happy side, which is birdies. And the name Radry also kind of sounds like it could be this character's name in a way. So I wanted this mark to be almost like a buddy that you're golfing with, as a constant reminder of, you're going to have these moments where it's easy to get upset about, what's taking place on the course, bad shot, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, it's more of an opportunity than a reason to get upset. And then it's just a reminder of why you're playing golf. You're outside, you're with your homies, and just don't let that emotional side of things sort of ruin it for you, because at some point you're not going to be golfing anymore, and you're going to look back and wish that you didn't act like that. So yeah, it's just like a little reminder.
Constant frowny face.
Just an upside down arc.
It's something I deal with. I'm a self-competitive person, and like things happen. And so a lot of it was also maybe for myself, so I'm obviously wearing Radry when I golf, and so I'll look at it. I have a tattoo to my arm, so I'll look at it and it's just like, okay, let's take a deep breath. I'm in the trees, but I could hit a amazing shot out of the trees. Those are the shots that you tend to remember anyway. So it's like, it's just a sort of a viewpoint, how you look at your situation.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I mean, I think I speak for everybody that's ever played golf, but like I've experienced the highest of highs on the course and the lowest of lows.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the one thing, when you can actually maybe step away from the situation, it's like, okay, those super high highs maybe aren't as high as you think, and the lows definitely aren't as low as you think.
Yep.
Um, and I have definitely found that like golf and life run parallels with each other. And I was just curious from your kind of perspective, understanding that, how has golf been a teacher or a mentor in your life?
I mean, yeah, you nailed it. The golf and life are almost exactly the same. Like even with business, how I'm raising my kids, you're just going to have these moments where you just have to kind of collect yourself and realize at the end of the day, the lows aren't as low as you think. And so you have to celebrate the wins for sure. So that's one thing I work on, where it's like, if you do hit a good shot, like if you hit a bad shot and followed up by a good shot, a lot of times you're just like, oh, like why couldn't I have done that like the previous shot? It's like, no, you hit a good shot, enjoy it. Like you should celebrate the wins, no matter how small or big they are, and that translates into a life every single day for me. Because sometimes I get lost in like, if a launch maybe didn't go as well as I was hoping for, whatever the situation may be, to just remember that you're going to have these moments. And so it's how you tackle these moments that's really going to matter.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. Um, since we're talking about highs and lows, I want to talk about some highs for a little bit. I mean, why not, right? Um, what I want to know is, with Radry and with your experience in the golf space, I want to hear what some of the highs and what some of the wins have been for you. Like, let's peel the curtain back just a little bit, and you've obviously been doing this for many years. We talked a little bit earlier about the golf space, kind of once you get into it, not being as big as you might have thought it was on the outside. And because of that, some really cool opportunities and some really cool people can come into your life, and some fun things can happen from that. What are some of the events in your professional career with Radry and in the golf space that maybe stand out to you? What are some of those highs that when you're done with all of this down the road, you'll remember?
100% just the relationships that I've built over the years. The business side of things will come and go, and it's great. But the most fun I've had and the most memorable times would be like going to the PGA show, and just like meeting up with all these people that I chat with on Instagram and other creators in the space, and talking shop with them, and going to play golf with them. Like those are my favorite memories by far. I mean, I can have like a solid launch and it could do well, but it doesn't change how I live my life. But making friends and building relationships and that's just way more important to me.
And who are some of those friends that you've made along the way? And you talk about heading out to the PGA show, golfing with some of these people, meeting some of these people. What are some maybe fun experiences or stories that stand out to you from those times?
Well, I would say my time at Random Golf Club. So there was a chunk in the timeline that we needed to maybe discuss. So Radry was started in 2018, and then I linked up with Eric Lang, founder of Ram Golf Club, and started the e-commerce business with him. And when it took off, I ended up moving to Texas, taking a creative director job there down in Austin for 3 years. And so Radry was put on ice from like 2019 until the beginning of last year. But during that time, we would do these meetups, and there'd be like 50 people playing all together, and they would show up wearing Random Golf Club head to toe, or even Radry at the time, and listening to them talk about how much they love the brand, and the product and all this stuff, and just playing golf with that many people who all have a shared interest. And it's that was those are definitely times that stood out to me, in my golf career. Just people who you connect with online, it's not even close to meeting up with them in real life.
Yeah, and I think that is something that we can definitely relate to too, because growing up golfers, lifetime golfers, there's brands or individuals that you're like, oh my gosh, like that's so cool, or like what they're doing is so amazing. And we've had the fortune to be able to meet with some of these people and get to know them and be part of some of these brands. And I think that is something that we would have never expected from golf, because historically growing up, and I think just throughout the history of golf, it's always perceived, and I think there is some truth to it still, but like that it's very closed door and it's very gate kept, right? And I think in reality, it's like 1 to 2 to 3 connections can lead you to some of the coolest experiences that you'll ever have. And so I think that's awesome that you've been able to have that, and continue to have um, some of those experiences as you continue to build Radry. Um, And as part of that, I'm curious to know if you had any of those connections or any of those opportunities right in front of you. Like, what would be a dream project for you to either collaborate on with Radry or with an individual? Like, what would that look like for you?
Man, I would. Oh man, that's a good one. In the golf space, it would be cool to collaborate with Adidas again. So back in Routine, we actually did a collaboration with Adidas, and so I've just been brand loyal to them ever since because they gave us this amazing opportunity. So I would love to do it again. It'd be really cool to do a collaboration with a completely different brand for the second time. Um, Otherwise, an artist, I think, you see a lot of collabs happening in the golf space. It's with other golf brands, which is cool. I do that as well. But I think it'd be cool to kind of step outside the box a little bit and collab with like a Terry Urban or more traditional clothing brand. I think that'd be really cool. I mean, I find myself wearing non-golf clothes golfing anyways, so I think there's a lot of opportunity outside the little golf sphere to collaborate with someone.
I think so. No, that's an interesting idea that you bring up that I think has a lot of validity, and I think the surface has been scratched on that. I mean, we were talking just yesterday about is it Abercrombie and Random Golf
Mm-hmm.
Club,
Mm-hmm.
and something that I thought was really interesting a couple years, maybe a year or two, I don't know, a couple years back is you brought up Adidas, the Adidas Gucci collaboration from a couple years ago, and on the face I was kind of like, how does like what are they doing? So I kind of looked into it a little bit, and it was really smart. Where Gucci is a luxury brand, right, and it's out of reach price wise for many individuals, but definitely for younger individuals. Let's say like teenagers, 20-year-olds, inside of college, just starting college, just outside of college, they obviously aspire to wear those luxury brands but can't really afford it at that time. And so what they were doing is partnering with companies like Adidas, where they can now price their items at a lower price point to not affect their luxury brand, but then make it more accessible for certain demographics and certain people, so that when they progress and hopefully get to that stage where they can pick a luxury brand later in life, they're already associated with one.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow, that's such a smart business move. I would love to see more of what you're talking about, where you say, I wear a bunch of non golf clothes out on the course anyway. I think we'd all say something similar to that, um, or at least piecing golf and non golf together. Um, I think it would be really smart for some of these other clothing brands or apparel brands or products to link up with a golf brand like Radry, for example, something that is like, uniquely and identifiably golf, to start to get their brand in front of golfers, so that when they're off the course or looking for things, that connection's already made, since golf, that demographic now is so huge,
Mm-hmm.
where it wasn't, maybe 15 years ago and stuff when we were growing up.
Yeah, I mean, golf itself, kind of like we grew up with, like there was skate culture and it was so big. I feel like golf is becoming something similar to a degree. Um, and yeah, it's just starting to break down the walls and barriers that previously existed between either sports or groups or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think
I
the
like
the hardest
that
part
idea.
is sort of weeding out the ones that are not so authentic.
A
So
hundred
like
percent.
you like you mentioned Gucci, and then there's like the 7-Eleven stuff
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
popped up, which is cool. That's fine. It's hard to sort of gauge who's in it for the right reasons and who's just trying to take advantage of a popular industry. So yeah, I think the authenticity needs to show through with whoever I would team up with. But a great example is Daniel Arsham, the artist and um, sculpture artist. He collaborated with Kohler Properties here in Wisconsin and Melbourne Golf, and so he on the courses they actually have these huge sculptures of his on the course. So it's like this mixture of his artwork with the courses, and then they obviously paired it with Melbourne collab clothing in the pro shops, and it was just like I was blessed to be able to go and meet them at like one of the parties because they're just down the road from me, and you can tell like he's genuinely interested in golf, and it felt authentic, and so even though he's not in the golf industry, it still felt right, and it was an amazing collaboration. They did it really well, so I'd love to see more stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I think there's so many opportunities out there for what you're doing. I mean, like I said, I love what you got going with the brand and the ethos behind it. Um, but I'm curious to know as we're wrapping up here, just what are some things that are on the horizon for you? Either maybe personally that you're excited about, but also with Radry, any events or any drops or collabs that may be ahead that you can give us a sneak peek about?
Yeah, definitely. So when I sort of Radry 2.0, as I'll call it, when I kind of brought it back from the dead beginning of last year, at this time there was a bunch of new brands in the space, and a lot of them are doing apparel and things like that. So I sort of had to hone in on what Radry actually represented, and sort of find my niche within the industry now. And that's when I kind of took on this art sort of direction. Identified myself as an artist and sort of tried to own that space within the market. So you're going to see a lot more paintings from me, and I'm really interested in like the home goods section. I feel it's pretty untapped, like making beanbag chairs and throw pillows. And one of my more popular releases was an ashtray that sold out right away. And so I think there's a great opportunity for me to sort of dive into more my creative side outside of just t-shirts and hats and things like that. So you're going to see some home goods stuff coming from me. And then I have a drop in a few weeks where I'm actually making a figurine. I haven't announced this to anybody yet, but so you're the first ones. But if you're familiar with like Bear Brick and Cause, it's going to be like that. So it's a little Radry guy that I'm going to be releasing hand numbered, which is also something that I've kind of been enjoying, like with my print releases, like very limited stuff. They're gonna be hand numbered, and yeah, it's gonna be super dope. Otherwise, more cut and sew pieces too. I'm definitely at that point within the brand where I can support the minimums it takes to make cut and sew pieces. I've bootstrapped this thing by myself, so it's been a process. So I'm at that point now where I can really start to bring in like cut and sew pieces and be able to, take on the minimums that it takes. So you're gonna see some more creative pieces from me.
That's awesome. Well, as far as the home goods and the characters and everything, you're talking to the right guys. We love all that type of stuff. Also, in addition to any clothing items. So I think what you're doing is it's something that nobody else is doing, at least in this kind of smaller sphere of golf streetwear brands, and I think it's genius. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't smoke, but an ashtray that is golf specific, that is designed by an artist like yourself, like, I'm all in. That's awesome.
Well, and kind of just to get my thought on it, like, so we talked earlier about like our parents getting us into golf, and like, I mean, I'm almost 30 now, but when I started playing when I was 7 and 8 years old, like it wasn't what it is now. It wasn't as cool, and like a lot of our dad's stuff, like the style. It's like it's like it's old school looking. It's really traditional. It's like I remember a lot of maroons being a part of like the tapestry blankets or the art pieces he'd have on the wall with like the old club or ball designs. You know what I mean? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
almost thrift store looking stuff now, which is still cool. Like it's retro now, which is cool. But like he would have golf pieces throughout the house as like home goods, you know. But honestly, it's not stuff that I would put in my house, or it would kind of look like a grandma's basement at this moment. And so, but what I do have in my house is like a Wolverine popcorn bucket, a Cause statue on my bookshelf behind me in my office, you know, collectible things
Mm-hmm.
like that, where they're almost a little bit more like, if you know, you know, like with the Cause statue, for example. Like I'll have friends come over and they're like, what the heck is that? And then they
Mm-hmm.
hate hearing how much money I spent on that thing. And I hate how much I spent on it, but I still think it's cool. But then I got other buddies and stuff that come over and they're like, oh, you got like that's sick. You know what I mean? It's like a way
Yep.
to communicate. And so if there was some stuff there that was a little more our vibe,
For sure.
you know, culturally that was golf related, I want to put that stuff in my house, man. So that when people come over, they're like, it first off, stylistically represents me and not my dad. But then also it's like, oh, if you know, you know, that's kind of tight. And then I love hand numbered stuff, dude. So I
Yeah.
geeked a little on that. Like it's literally just getting a marker and writing on it, but for some reason it makes it so much more valuable in my head. You know what I mean? And so much more like personal,
Exactly. Once you
right?
see the
So
number that you get, there's an immediate attachment to it. That's the only
yeah,
one that exists for you specifically.
100%. And I just really quick, I went to an event last week in Los Angeles. It was the Lincoln Park Coming Back show. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but they're back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I had some friends asking while I was out there. They're like, "How many people are there? How many people are there?" And it was kind of hard to gauge. I was like, probably like 1,500 to 2,000. I'm not 100% sure. And then I thought it was so cool that after we got to do that whole thing, that when they bussed us back to the parking lot after seeing that show, and we just had an experience, especially as fans, like this, you know, band that's been gone for 7 years is now back all of a sudden. We're all on cloud nine, and then as we're coming off the buses back into the parking lot, they had some of their staff out there giving out pins and posters that were all numbered. And so like the poster that I got was like 687 out of 1,500. And I was like, oh, so that's how many people were there. It's in a little silver marker down in the bottom corner. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I instantly have so much more attachment with this thing, more than just like a concert poster because
Yep.
of what it represents. Right. So anyway, I think that's like, that kind of stuff is right up everybody's, you know, this demographic's alley. And I'm loving that you're expanding beyond t-shirts and hats, especially as an artist, because we love that stuff and we love your stuff, but like in the years that area has definitely grown,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so how can you differentiate, stay relevant, and show people that you continue to be creative? I'm really excited to see what you were just kind of teasing with us right now.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly it. I think like the other creative things also helps you sell the t-shirt and hat because they become more valuable. You know, like this logo hat, nobody would have bought this, 5 years ago, but now they're starting to realize that it represents more than just what you're seeing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And also that's why I want to get more art into the world at the end of the day, and that's why every order that I get, over $30, I think, I actually include a 4x6 print that's hand numbered and signed. So I take that time and I sign them, number them. So every single order that comes in, I include one of those. So it's just like a little toss in gift, and people love those.
Yeah. Just giving it the artist personal touch. That's super cool. Well, we are super excited to see what's coming down the line. Obviously, you have a lot to show and a lot to present to people, and we're excited to be able to let our listeners kind of get the first scoop on everything. But we'd love to have a follow up episode, maybe a couple months to a year from now, and just talk about it again, see where it's at, and keep supporting it. So we appreciate you being on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks guys. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you.